Hi, friends. I try to come to you each week with things that have actually happened in my week. And often, as they're happening, I'm thinking about you and knowing that something good is going to come from this, and I'm going to tell it to you on Mondays. Sometimes it takes a while to figure out what good is going to come from some things, but good always comes from it. This week, two of my sons played in a basketball tournament. While I was sitting at the tournament, a man was sitting behind me who had driven a long way with the team that our team was playing, and he was a fan of the opposing team. He and who I believe were probably his wife were sitting about 3 rows behind a friend of mine and myself in the bleachers. Some other people I knew were sitting a few rows ahead of us. And not far into the game, the referee made a call that the man did not like. Not a big deal. Some people get more into sports than others. I am not a passionate sports fan. I am passionate about a lot of things, and I enjoy watching sports, especially if my children are playing, but I'm not a passionate sports fan. But I understand some people have that personality, and that's fine. I also understand that people are very connected and loyal to their own team. But as the game went along, it became more and more uncomfortable. The man was saying more and more things. First of all, he thought the calls were wrong, but then it got more personal to him. Then he was convinced, after a few more minutes, that one of the 3 referees had it out for one boy on his team. And then it advanced to the fact that the home team had probably, in his mind, hired these 3 referees because the 3 referees actually were church members of the home team. So they were for that team, which was our team. And I was sitting there, of course, didn't turn around. You can be proud of me for that. But I was proud of me. But it was funny to me because I know that the 3 men were hired from an official referee association, and none of them, I had never met any of them. None of them had ever been to our church, as far as I know. And so this man's accusations kept getting worse and worse and more personal. And as he went along, and as his anger was getting stronger and stronger, his comments were getting more intense. But I didn't turn around. I didn't say anything. The elderly friend next to me, you could tell that she felt tense also, but of course did not look over at me, and we were just very still about it. And I've heard trash talking in games, we all have, but this was different than I'd ever heard. He went from blaming a bad call to blaming a specific referee to blaming, favoritism from the home team, hiring refs from their own church. But a couple things that he said, and he kept getting louder, and the name calling got worse. But he said one thing, and he didn't say it too loud, but he said it loud enough I could hear, and it was a very vile statement that was very personal. And it was everything in me. By this point, now we're into the 3rd quarter of the game, my heart was going very fast. I was getting very warm. I was really getting upset, and I was trying not to, but I was really getting upset, Finally, the lady next to me just stood up and moved because obviously she could not handle it anymore. And after a couple more comments, I got up and moved too. But at the same time, this man had had enough. He just could not believe how bad this game was. So he got up, and his wife was, following along after him. And he walked around the whole gym and walked out saying mean and horrible things the entire time. I had never had that experience before. Now, why I'm sharing it with you today is because that was something that totally came up out of nowhere. I did not go to that tournament even mentally preparing myself for anything like that. And it was a shock to me. I will tell you the truth, ladies, and I feel a little embarrassed to admit this. I had to get up and walk around for a few minutes during the game. My heart was pounding. I personally felt like that man actually hit me with his words. It felt like physical pain. It was so intense by the time that he finally left. Thankfully, I stood over by the side and I got into a conversation with someone else about a totally unrelated topic, and I calmed down a little bit. And I am not a person that gets excited about small things or just someone, cheering for their team, maybe downing the other team. But this really got to me, and it shocked me how it affected me so strongly. So I want to ask you, have you had something like that happen? You're just going along in your life and boom, you are hurt with something very painful, and you don't even really know what to do with how upset you feel. I'll tell you what happened to me, and that is, I'm glad that I got in a conversation with a friendly person and stopped thinking about it as quickly as possible. Number 2, I am so thankful that God gave me the grace to not turn around and give him a nasty look or say something to him, because that would have just hurt my testimony and our school and church's testimony. But the last thing I want to say is this. The sooner you and I can take a hurtful situation and try to find compassion in it, the easier it's going to be for these negatives to not turn into bitterness, but to quickly be forgiven and forgotten. I thought about that woman that was his wife. If a person can get so quickly mad, and in just a few minutes his anger makes him list off different people and groups of people to blame, then you know that that woman is usually taking the brunt of the blame in that house. The children are probably also taking blame. There is a hurt in that man's life. There is baggage. That is not normal to be so intensely angry so quickly and to blame so many people. And when I wrapped my mind around that and actually thought about her, but also thought about him and wondered what hurt him, it was easier for me not to be upset, to let it go. So the more quickly we can find compassion when hurt, the easier it will be for us to forgive. Try to think through another person's life. Quickly find compassion when unexpected hurts happen to you. Ask God to help that person that hurt you. Refuse to let it fester. That's just a thought of something that happened to me, because it happens to all of us. Something might happen at work when we're not expecting it, or at the store. It could be someone that's driving around us. These little shocking pains can happen in our day-to-day life. So as quickly as you can, turn the hurt into compassion and lead it to forgiveness and show it out the door. Let it go. this week, let's really try to love God by loving others, every single person that we meet. Have a great week, friends.